right. Cool, dude. Hey, welcome to Over 50. Starting over, everyone. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Earl Garrison.
All right. The upfront first segment of this episode, I have a very, very cool question to ponder. Oh. This is one of the classic phone calls you and I would do over the years. And I would hit you with exactly a question like this. And it would be a great conversation for about an hour, but we can't go that long. So we got to get to the point on that.
All right.
In the second half of the show, I got to tell you, I just started this morning listening to Glenn Greenwald. He's a very popular independent podcaster and journalist. And it got me thinking about, I want to talk just for a little bit about that Venezuelan drug boat that got blown.
Yeah, the one they blew to smithereens.
Yeah. There's other things.
There were drugs on that boat.
I personally have some less interesting stuff, but important stuff. So how much we get to it is debatable, but their hospitals are being bought up by hedge funds and private equity funds and being bankrupted, just killing the American people even more than we have been. And their hedge funds are buying up utility companies now because they see the need for AI and data centers, the need for energy, and what happens when they own everything, all the energy.
Well, it's pretty close to that right now, right? I mean, these hedge funds own so much.
We'll wait on that. I know you have a few other things. I have particulars on it. Oh God, there's even it's said that Chicago might be next on the list for the National Guard.
Yeah.
There are issues there too.
I'm looking forward to that, actually.
All right, and I will give you the opportunity to lead with whatever you want when we get to the current events. This will lead to current events, Merle. The question is, when are we playing God? And eventually down the road on this, the question will be when we're so obsessed with living to 120 years old, who's going to pick up the tab for a life of retirement,
Well, right.
Yeah, dude, that's a major thing that nobody's ever brought up. So about when are we playing God? I started thinking about, there's the triteness I don't want to get too into, but the trans issue. So Christians I've been hearing for about the last year will say something like, I forget how they word it, but it's something like, you can't mess with the body that God gives you. I didn't word it right, but it's something to that effect. And I definitely get that because in my opinion, I believe 99% of these cases, and I would stand by 99%, are bad ideas, messing around with puberty blockers and surgeries and stuff.
Right.
I remember Jordan Peterson quoting a study where more than 90% of people found out, I'm just gay. Well, then just be gay.
Right.
But this led me to think, going all the way the other end of the spectrum. When we started off with modern medicine, when we got our first vaccines, and there was a smallpox controversy. I did a quick look up on this. Cotton Mather and other Puritan leaders supported early smallpox inoculations, but there are opponents like John Williams that argued that inoculation was human interference against divine judgment. They saw it as fighting against the Almighty. When we performed our first surgeries, I'm sure that there was backlash against God's will, not letting God, divine, separate things out. What do you think about this subject matter?
Well, I think that there's been a lot of crazy talk and things like that over the years when it comes to these types of things. There's a big smoke screen around all of this stuff. I don't see anywhere in the Bible where it says that you can't do surgery on somebody. I mean, it's interesting. If you look at the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, Luke was a physician. And so not only that, but he was a historian as well. So I'm not seeing anything anti-doctor, anti-surgery, or anything like that.
Let me ask you
that goes on. Go ahead.
I never thought of this before. But way back then, in prior times, even, it's archaeologists find crafts for wine that also are laced with hallucinogens. I forget the exact term for it. So drug use, goes back a long, long ways. Is there anything in the Bible that is anti-alcohol drug use?
Yes. So you
Huh.
can see a few things here. The Bible constantly talks about being sober and not
Hmm.
being drunk, and that drunkenness leads to all kinds of problems, health problems, family problems, and so on.
Yeah, it
And there are
does.
stories about people that are drinking and and what happens to them in the Bible as well. So, interestingly, that where we get the word pharmaceutical comes from the Latin word pharmakeia, and there is mention of this word in the Bible in conjunction with idol worship, where these people were also given drugs to which pharmakeia means there's a derivative word that means witchcraft in there as well. So, in order
Wow.
to manipulate people's minds and get them to worship a deity that is demonic. Drugs are involved in this whole thing. And you can see how that whole thing is being manipulated today. We look at the pharmaceutical industry, and these people are among the top people that don't want you to know about God. And they you can see what's happening here in our system, in our political system, the turmoil that's happening with pharmacy. But back to the original question, um, I don't think that drugs that are meant to heal are prohibited by God either, or that we're supposed to just get sick and die without any kind of intervention. I don't believe in that either. I do believe, though, when we take a look at this whole vaccination thing, that there's a lot of hoopla around what works and what doesn't work. And it doesn't seem
Yes,
like they have
there
our
is.
best interest at heart whatsoever.
No transparency on that for real. So if we go to the extreme of trans surgeries, that kind of intervention. Oh, and dude, don't get me started on the horror stories of giving prepubescents puberty blockers.
Yeah.
That's something that's not even debatable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, surgery, trans surgery, or something for an adult, I think is completely on the table for debate. But you get into messing around with kids, and dude, I'll go with evil on that one all day. You
No,
know?
there's a moral line there that everybody knows that they're just ignoring it on purpose and then trying to make it into a political type of a question in order to win their agenda on this whole thing. Because if it's political, then maybe it could sound like it's moral. But that's an interesting dilemma we keep seeing over and over, that people ignore the moral conundrum but then use verbal gymnastics in order to make it sound like, no, but this is still a good thing to mutilate your child and cause them to be gender confused for the rest of their lives, because that's what happens.
Oh, dude, you know that this is kind of a big deal in public eye places like Hollyweird and anything online, social media people. Uh, Boy, if they can call their kids some kind of trans, non binary, whatever weird thing, it's social status for them. And
Well,
so
it
they
is.
throw their kids under the bus, dude.
Well, that's the whole playing God thing here, is that you're going to dictate how somebody's body, somebody's moral platform is going to go. And I mean, we looked at, what is it, Charlize Theron? We looked at that last week, where there was, she's got two adopted children who happen to be black, and they're both males, but she dresses them up
Oh,
like
right. I
girls. I mean,
forgot
they're
about
wearing
that.
dresses. And
Yeah.
to me, that's highly immoral. Again, you're
Going to
virtue
screw those kids
signaling.
up for life.
And yeah, who are you to dictate what sex these children are? The article I read said that one of them told her when he was 5 that he wasn't a boy, and therefore she's been dressing him and treating him as a girl, and says she has daughters. And I just think it's crazy. And how could you let somebody adopt a child and then do that to them? Doesn't that seem like so wrong?
Dude, we're in a crazy time today. I mean, an absolutely nutty time that I hope that this society lives long enough to look back on 2020, 2025, probably the last 10 years for sure, and just be like, this was a downfall, absolute pit of humanity. But they climb their way back out, and here's how. I mean, I hope that's the way the story goes. But let me ask you this. So, dude, I have no thoughts or preconceived ideas on this. For you guys listening, I want you to know that Merle didn't know that this question was coming at him. And so his answers thus far have been like, holy crap, it sounds like he prepared for this last night. He did not. All right, so Botox, facelift, boob jobs, Brazilian butt lifts, all the many implants that people put into their bodies. What do you think about playing God on the scale of playing God there? Is it frivolous or is there something important going on?
I don't know that God would say, hey, you just got a facelift and that's sin. I can't find that in the word.
Okay.
However, I would say that anytime you go to the doctor and have some kind of anything done, there's a big risk to your health. And anytime they do any kind of invasive surgery, in other words, they're going to go inside of you, you're taking a big risk there. To me, sure, would I like to get liposuction for my love handles that I can't seem to get rid of? Yeah, that seems like an easy thing, but there's so many risks involved. What if I get some kind of a blood infection? That'll kill you. And it happens all the time. It's totally not worth it. And I think it's more of a matter of prudence and what makes sense. And, the other thing, too, is you can get a facelift and look absolutely horrendous afterwards. A lot of these celebrities, I hate to say it, but
some get some good
I'm
ones.
I'm not going to name any names because I can think of several right now, but it's like these are beautiful women that now they look like aliens.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely happens. One of the things that made me think about this, there was a lot of talk on a podcast yesterday about Kris Jenner's latest facelift. And it's it was Tim Dillon on Rogan's podcast. And that's a really good podcast because Tim Dillon is good when he's on the show. Rogan's recurring guests, his friends that are comedians that he brings back, it's the chemistry and everything. I see the name and I'm like, I can't wait to listen to that. Well, Dylan, and it's so spontaneous. He's like, yeah, her third head was the best head. Definitely the best head out of the three. Because he just acts like they get head
third head.
But
That's
she
awesome.
totally to me looks like, I've seen her in the tabloids, looks like she took pictures of her daughter Kim and said, make me look like this, which is creepy beyond belief.
It really is. And, these people have the money to throw around and do this
and be
kind
creepy.
of thing.
Yeah, do creepy things.
Yeah. Okay, remember, I hate to Jerry Jones got a face tuck or whatever, maybe like
the
10
football
years ago.
owner.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
yeah.
Man, I didn't even recognize him
I
after
didn't
he
know
got
that.
done. It wasn't good, man. I just say you're taking a big risk when you do this kind of thing. And I don't know. I just kind of, why not love yourself? Some people have real problems and they need to do stuff, right? But other than that, I'd say leave it alone. Just go with it. Embrace who you are.
Yeah. And there's definitely varying degrees on that. There's, people that may get like extreme wrinkles in a certain area and want to just take the edge off of that. Totally get that versus the whole you look like a different person type of thing.
But the medical industry now is very risky. I mean, I work in
really
hospitals. There's just so much risk involved. I just read about where the LASIK surgery. It turns out that now this article said that every single person that's gotten LASIK is going to have a dry eye syndrome.
My
or runny
brother
eye
had it. It was
syndrome.
life changing for him.
Yeah, that's what they say, but eventually this is what ends up happening. Now, I'm not doing deep research on this, but gosh, wouldn't that suck if you get your,
Hmm.
hey, I can see, but man, I got this
Dude,
runny eye all the
I
time.
just think that the gift of sight, and I don't know which is more important. I think most of us would go with sight between sight and hearing, but is an amazing gift.
Oh
Like
man, and to lose
amazing
it would
gift.
be terrifying.
Yeah, so I think of something like LASIK surgery, if the trade off of dry eyes, whatever, man. I just want to
Yeah.
see. Okay, so
Well, the other thing is this is that if you, but my thing is the risk is okay, yeah, dry eye doesn't sound that bad, but what if it does blind you, right? What if
oh
they make a
God, yeah, yeah,
mistake?
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so to me, and then you're putting a laser in my eye.
I know,
That
dude.
doesn't, that sounds
Anytime you're
crazy.
messing with eyes, it creeps me the hell out. I had a
Right?
neighbor that was an ophthalmologist, the surgeon one. Don't confuse it with optometrist. He does surgery on eyeballs. And he's like, we're having beers at Melt some years ago. And he's like showing me YouTube videos. And this is where and he has no idea. He's so fascinated by it. He got into it because of his daughter's problems with her eyes. But he is so fascinated and into it, he has no idea how I just want to throw up and crawl
Oh
out
my
of my.
gosh, yeah. Don't
All right,
show
but
me that.
because I want to get to the end of
Cringy.
this and on to other things,
Yeah, yeah.
I did not think of this until just now, but there's also the CRISPR medical stuff that's going on, which is gene altering so that your kids will theoretically your kids will grow up without diseases, any chance of getting
Mm.
these certain diseases. But China's been doing experiments and making kids more intelligent. Of course they are. I'm sure we are too. We just can't tell anybody. There's
Right.
cloning, there's all that. But I didn't even think about these things until just now, those two things.
Yeah.
Where I wanted to go with this and kind of come to a cap is there's that dude, what's his name? I have it here somewhere, who's trying to be younger and younger,
Oh yeah,
Bryan
I know that
Johnson,
guy. Yeah,
doing
yeah. He
blood
does look really
transfusion.
young.
Is that right? So I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
much about him. I only
I've
heard
seen
about it.
pictures
Like,
of
how
him and I
weird
read
is
an
this?
article. It's weird, but it seems like I mean, he's doing things that are somehow and prolonging his youth. Like, it's not just prolonging his life. He looks very youthful, and he's like, I don't know, our age, I guess. But he does look like he's 35 right now, and that's kind of crazy. But again, this is all experimental stuff. I don't
Hmm.
want to be the guinea pig on any of this stuff because
Very true.
I mean, look, like for instance, you and I have talked about anxiety before. I mean, that's not a huge thing, but it'll ruin your life,
It's
right?
horrible.
What
Anxiety
if
is
you
horrible.
what if you take one of these kinds of drugs and then it messes with that inside so you have just permanent anxiety? I mean, these are the kinds
Double
of risks.
anxiety.
Yeah,
Whew.
who would want that? That
Oh
would be
my
a life
God.
of hell.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So to me, it's like the natural way is the best way. If you can do things naturally, even like we just talked about anxiety, you go to these therapists and you could get more screwed up than you were when you went in there, by
Oh,
the
because
way.
you're talking SSRIs there, and now
Oh my
it's
gosh, the
so
drugs.
known now how bad they are. Shooters, I think most of these school shooters have been found to have SSRIs in their system.
Oh yeah, that is something we've
It was
heard.
about 2, 3 years later. It was finally
Yeah.
revealed Robin Williams had two different SSRIs in his system when
Right.
he committed
Right.
suicide.
Yeah.
And so
It's
this isn't
serious.
uncommon. I
Like,
mean,
right.
it's
So
coming
these
to
are the
light.
treatments. SSRI being the treatment for these types of things are actually causing people to it's
Because we
got a
don't know how
mal
they
effect,
work.
right? Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't. Well, that's the whole thing, Barry, is that from in the medical industry, what we're seeing, you asked the question to begin with, is when are we playing God?
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, we're seeing it. When you combine the medical industry with government and business that can make mandates for, let's say, a vaccination, you're playing God. That's what you're doing. And there was a whole international law
Got to
called
do that
that came
responsibly.
out of Nuremberg regarding informed consent that says that you have to know not only what's coming into your body, but what it'll do to your body.
Wow, we
And
forgot all about that, huh?
we sure have. And we did that because of people like Joseph Mengele, who did all those terrible experiments on the twins. And
Mm.
what when you take a look at what happened over the last 5 years over COVID, they did a Mengele experiment on 80% of the population.
That's very true. But they've done a heck of a job covering up MK Ultra and Operation Climax. Don't want to talk about that. They used to give lobotomies in for a period of time. This is, as I recall, in New York City.
Oh yeah, that's where One Flew Over the
Lobotomies.
Cuckoo's Nest came out of that, and that changed everything. That was a protest movie that changed everything around that. Now we've got another problem where no one's taking care of these people.
You're right about that. You're right about that. So let's get to the other half of this question. This is a really important one.
That was a good one so far.
Well, I could go on and on because I'd love to get into the CRISPR and the cloning aspects of that. That's crazy, right? I didn't think about it before until just now. But dude, what is the plan? Like, I'm trying to, everything that we talk about politically, I want to know one thing. Where are we intended to go? Like with this economy and with this government? I have my thoughts on it. That's going to come up when we talk about the Venezuelan boats, but nobody's telling me. Nobody's leveling with me. When we talk about this, when are we playing God, and everybody's trying to live longer, which I think is crazy. I think our prime directive of every species, right down to a mosquito or an ant, is to try to evolve. And part of trying to evolve is trying to live longer. Those things are intertwined. And so every little tiny thing, including human beings, has just built into their genetics or right into their core, the prime directive of trying to stay alive.
Yes, I agree with that.
And there's the weird thing, dude. I think this gets right back into playing God. Like, first of all, if you believe in God with all your heart in heaven, why would you want to try to extend your life?
That is a great question, Barry. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, go with that, because the other one is also long, and I really am trying to get to an end point on this, but we could talk about it forever. Why would you want to try to extend your life?
This is such a great question. Actually have goosebumps on this question because the great answer on this comes from the Bible, and Paul says it. He says, to live is gain and to die is Christ. In other words, you got nothing to lose, brother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, if I get to stay here with you, then we get to do all these things together. And I can, really, when I think about our relationship, it's one of uplifting. My relationship with you, I always feel uplifted whenever we're together. So to live is gain. Like, we're going to gain that. But if I die, I get to be with Christ, my Savior, and all of the trappings and blessings that are around that. So here's the cool thing is that if you really embrace that, then really it's hard to get down, because like no matter what happens, Barry, I win.
Yeah.
And so like that's the kind of thing. You had me listen to that interview with Larry Elder, and they were talking about Christianity there. By the way, that was a really good, was it Tim Pool interview with Larry Elder? That was a really good one. Very uplifting. Larry talks about the value of religion, and one of those is that it's not just that, okay, so when I die this is going to happen. It's that you feel like you have a sense of purpose. You have pep in your step. There's a God that loves you and cares about you. Yes, and you can really tell by the countenance of people's faces if they have that in their lives before you even say one word to them. It's almost like they're lit up, right? They have a certain thing. It doesn't matter. It's not just Christianity here. It's a belief in a higher power that I'm talking about that drives people to higher levels. And
I want to just interject one thing briefly. I've thought about this a lot. Like, I have a lot of very dear friends here in the Heights, my dog walking friends.
Yeah.
And the politics here, so I don't talk about those things. But I will say, most of them, I could tell you exactly what they believe. They'll give hints of it, but they're polite about it. But and one of my best friends, Charlie's best friend, doggy friend, they're totally, totally Heights people left. Definitely doesn't believe in God and so on. but has every bit of that glow about him and gentleness and looks as enlightened as anybody. And I know a lot of people like that. I don't know what that fuel is, but
I don't
I
either.
don't want to
Yeah.
pass a judgment against them, is my point.
Not nothing against them whatsoever. However, I have found in my own life that it's funny. I was just talking to my son about this last night. That we all come to a point. And I don't know if it's men and women come to this certain point. I believe it's men and women come to this, but I can only speak as a man that we come to this point where we realize that life is way bigger than we are and that we don't have the capacity to really handle it and that we need help from our higher power. Um, I just believe that once you understand that there's a higher power to help you with everything because of life's circumstances, that adds to peace. And I would hate. I can only speak for myself and not for those people. Just and God bless them. I want them to be happy. I love happy people, but I found that it's you know in order life is too hard. It's just too hard without being able to rely on a higher power, and that gives me comfort. It gives me security. It gives me joy as well. And I want everybody to have that. If you don't need to have that from God, then more power to you. That's I can't imagine the crisis situations that I've been in. I can't imagine not being able to rely on God.
I totally understand. I simply believe in a higher power and an intelligence beyond me because I feel it. I feel 100% a piece of a world that is just going through me in all directions and I'm just a part of. I can't explain it better than that.
I can tell you this, Barry, and I am very much a Christian, and I talk to God just like He's my friend because He is. And I get certain feelings or unctions inside of me, but I do pray for you, brother, and because I love you. And I always get this feeling back from God of immense love for you.
I
And
think
that
so. I do
I
think
think that's
so.
why you feel the way that you feel,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I feel that too. And it's for you. So I just think that's cool, man. And I don't know if I ever told you that before.
Ah, I appreciate it. Appreciate it. I am jotting down a couple questions. I had a thought this morning. Had a lot of thoughts about this podcast, Revelations this morning.
I
And
love Revelations.
I don't know why we haven't been doing this 5 plus, almost 6 years next
Almost
month
6 years.
of
Crazy. That's
doing this
crazy.
podcast. Uh,
Changed my
we
life.
we like never come to, or at least we shouldn't come to dead set answers on the things that we talk about.
No,
Certainly
we're
not here.
always exploring.
I want to make a note we don't even have time to talk about this one as we're trying so hard to extend our lives. And what if the average age goes to 120? Who the hell's paying for the dependents there?
Well, here's the thing too, is that if you can live until you're 120 and that becomes the average, then you're going to end up working longer because you're healthy longer. The only reason people retire has everything to do with health, and you're at the end of the line, right?
Right, right.
Um, yeah, I was just talking to Anne Marie about this. Like, I, I'm 59. We're both 59 years old,
Mm-hmm.
right? 65 is the watermark for retirement. At least that's what they say. And I think it's going up like 67. But that's the point. It's that people live longer. It's not sustainable to have all these people on these retirement plans because
I
they're going to run out of
wonder
money,
if
right?
they were like COVID. Let's get rid of all those people, all those old people.
Well, I tell you what, that seemed to be what was happening right there. A lot of liability for the country went away during that time. That's a whole nother story right there. Um, it does seem to me that we're going to run into that conflict, right? Like, uh, there's government forces that don't want that to
Uh-huh.
happen. But then there's the other part of it too, Barry, which is it's idle hands are the devil's workshop, right?
Uh-huh.
We talked about this before
Yeah.
about these people that okay,
Recently.
now I'm not working. Let's just drink ourselves to death,
Yeah.
every night, like
What
woohoo.
are
And
you
then
gonna do?
there's no. But see, what happens is you don't have a purpose anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and I just really think that people, and back to this whole religious thing, that gives people purpose. They have a higher value. It's bigger than them now, right? We need to all find things that are bigger than ourselves, that give us a purpose in life. Um, this show has a lot to do with that for me. I mean, I'm not just going to work every day. I do stuff like this, or the book that we've been writing here, along with Casey Fleming. There's a purpose here. I'm an advisor on this book, and we work on this all the time because we want to make sure that America and the free world are saved. And we know these things that we've been researching. And so we want to tell the world about this kind of stuff. That gives me purpose. It gives me pep in my step.
That's what you would be doing even if you weren't working for money. You would still be doing that. That's what I'm talking about. Ideally, if you could actually sustain a living doing something you'd be doing anyway, that should be a goal.
Well, and Barry, I ran into somebody one time. I was kind of like dissatisfied with the work that I was doing, and this was right around the time when we started.
I know this story. I know that you told this.
I just drove up. I was discouraged, and I drove up to my favorite coffee shop that was up in the mountains and in California, and real peaceful. And this old man sits down next to me and just starts striking up a conversation with me, and he starts telling me about his business. And I said, man, what a cool thing. He says, man, it's what I love to do. And I said, man, I want to be able to do what I love to do. I don't think I'm doing what I love to do right now. And he told me to start doing what I love to do right now. Even though I'm doing this other thing, start doing what I love. Agree. And he said, here's the thing about doing what you love is that eventually, because you love it, the money's gonna come and it'll be sustainable. That's what happened to me. And I don't know. I said shortly after that we started doing this podcast, and of course I've had dreams of, oh my gosh, let's get rich doing this kind of thing. But I gotta say, we haven't gotten rich. However, there's a richness that I've received from this in my heart. There's been
other benefits for sure.
Big time. And so it just, I just say this, and it's really back to the God theme again. Follow your heart. God puts the dreams of your heart inside. He puts them in there because there's a reason. He wants to establish that into the world. Just follow your heart, follow your dreams. There's a reason why they're in your heart.
Well, I totally agree with that. Now, I really need to switch over to current events, which I'm going to ask where you want to go. But I want to say that I think what I'm going to do with social media, because this is an ongoing topic here, and I think we should pick back up maybe next week or at least soon on the whole idea of CRISPR and cloning, the ethics behind that. It's kind of continuing this conversation.
Well, I got to say, I did that 23andMe several years ago, and I found out that a lot of information about my DNA. And then I found out that the Chinese Communist Party hacked 23andMe and stole all that DNA information.
Wow.
So is there a clone of me in China, like working in some kind of mine?
We talked about that a few years ago, right? When I did the same thing. I think it was 23andMe. All right, so I'm going to put on social media something like, if we're extending life, who's paying for it? And then maybe a question of the moral thing about CRISPR and cloning. But we got a lot in current events.
Tim Kaine thing, I think, is a good place to start with that video. The one where it says, wow, sitting U.S. Senator just rejected the foundational premise of the Declaration of Independence.
Okay, I got it. And share sound, and here we go. It's short, so
the notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling. The notion that rights don't come from law.
All right, so this whole thing is very interesting to me, and I think it goes back to your original question, Barry, of when is it that we're playing God? And I think that it is very interesting what Tim Kaine is saying. Remember, he's the guy that was going to be our vice president under Hillary Clinton. And he's saying that this notion that our rights come from God is dangerous, and it's just like Iran under Shia law. We need to understand that rights come from the government. However, I just wanted to point out that this is the battle that's happening today, Barry, it's a moral line of scrimmage. And where is that exact line of scrimmage and who owns it? Is it is there a higher power? Is there a higher power with a moral code to it, or does government dictate that? Well, in our Declaration of Independence, it says we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so right there, Barry, how can Tim Kaine say that our rights come from government when our founding charter actually says differently? And then why would he say something like that?
Why would he say something like that?
Well, here's my premise is that if the government can make rights, they can also take rights away. You see, we are, as human beings, free. It doesn't matter if we're enslaved by a person or not. From a moral perspective, we are a free people. We could even be in slavery, but still in our hearts, we are free. We're free to think. We're free. We're free indeed. That's the point. And if we have that mentality, we'll always fight to remain free on that moral standard. And what these people are really saying is that there is a moral code that's been put inside of all of us. But if the government suddenly has that right, declare rights or take rights away, that's a function of God, according to this document, uh, which is our founding document. And what it looks like is happening is Tim Kaine is wanting to change that narrative to we, the people in government, are the ones that dictate your rights. I've heard many politicians say, give us more power and we'll give you more rights. But that is playing God right there. It says here, just to continue in this declaration, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. In other words, governments are only made in order to secure the rights that God has already put into place. Now, I think this is interesting because he compared it to here is that he's saying that natural law is something to be concerned about because that's what they do in Iran. But that's not what we're talking about here in this country. This isn't about Christian law. It could be Christian law, but this comes from classical philosophy, Cicero, Aristotle, not Christians, but also Christian theology, Aquinas, and Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke and Montesquieu. These are the people that believe that human beings are endowed with inherent rights by virtue of being a human being, not just because of God, but because they're human. So whether you're God-loving or not, these are the natural laws that this document is talking about. And if you go ahead and play that next one with Elizabeth Warren, I'll show you what I'm talking about here.
Okay. I found the Venezuelan boat, of course. That was easy. Oh boy, this one.
So
Will you
as you're
tell
looking,
America that all adults and all children over 6 months of age are eligible to get a COVID booster at their local pharmacy today?
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it, Senator.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS, Anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No. If you don't
No kidding.
recommend, then the consequence of that in many states is that you can't walk into a pharmacy and get one. It means insurance companies don't have to cover the $200 or so cost. As Senator Dr. Cassidy said, you are effectively denying people vaccines.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
What you should be doing.
You know, I just got to say that point right there, we could pretty much end on that point.
Yes, we could end on that
you
point.
Want to?
Go ahead and end on that point, because this is my point, is that from a political standpoint, she's trying to push this vaccination
She
out
sold
to
her soul
to little kids, and we know it's because she's financed by the pharmaceutical companies. We know that's the fact. But here's the thing, is that we have a natural right to life. That's what we just read. And we know that this vaccination can have a tremendous impact on how long your life actually lasts, especially for the most vulnerable. She was talking about little kids right there, that she wants to force vaccinate these people. And she goes on to say that Kennedy had lied, because now the taxpayer isn't subsidizing those for these people any longer. But what she's saying is that, well, you lied because you said you would make them available, and now they're not available. And he said, no, they're still available. No, they're not available. And
They're not mandating it.
This is the thing.
To kids.
That's a lie, and it's politically motivated. And when you take God out of the equation of our rights, then they're God. They're in charge of our rights. And you see how easily they lie. You see, the very thing is that what's so important about this is that and this is what the founders were so concerned about, is that if the government becomes the ultimate authority instead of securing God-given or natural rights, then the rights turn into privileges granted or revoked at will. That's what Tim Kaine wants. That's
No,
what
I
they all
totally get
want, really, because absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right.
So you got to be careful of this. They're going to turn it into this is a Christian thing, and we're not under a theological government. That's not what we're talking about. That's a mischaracterization of what this is, and it's simply to put more of these poisons inside of your body.
Well,
It's
you know,
terrible.
I don't think you even have to go to the Christian thing at all on this. I think you just go back to, and dude, I only thought of this just now. This is not some thought out argument, but I think you just go back to the Hippocratic Oath, which is do no harm. And really baked into that, every doctor would tell you, dude, I've known a lot of doctors in my time, and I have a couple good friends right now, and they're just good people who got in it to do the right thing. And unfortunately, they've been easily taken advantage of because they're not hardened business people, ruthless business people. But my real point is, if you start having any one of them talk about the Hippocratic Oath, it starts with do no harm. And right baked in with that is you better have scientific proof that it does more good than harm. That is absolutely a prerequisite. And the whole COVID fiasco turned that around. It's forgotten about.
Well, what we saw was that there was definitely no evidence that the vaccination could prevent transmittability. They even admitted that.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what was the vaccination for? I
Yeah.
Wasn't that what the purpose of a vaccination is? And so the whole thing was a lie. And I guess my point is, when we go to that moral foundation is, we have rights, and these rights don't come from the government. And although the government is always going to try to encroach on that, the fact of the matter is that we've always got to be fighting to make sure that our human rights, which equals human dignity, are in place. And these people want to steal that from us, and we always got to keep an eye out for that. They always pose it as something good for us too. Like, you're going to take away this benefit to these little kids? Come
Little
on,
kids. Man. Last I heard, and it there could be new studies because this is like 2 years old, maybe 3 years old. But I heard that the latest study, and this is like one of those Dr. James McCullough, is that his name? One of those doctors that was speaking out against the vaccine. Dr. Robert Malone, he was one of the developers of the mRNA vaccine itself. And he was against, but one of them said there's a child is shown to have more of a chance of dying from the complications of myocarditis than he does of COVID. Do not give them the vaccine.
So it's more dangerous to give them the vaccine than,
it was
than not to give them the vaccine.
That's what I heard a few years ago. Could be updated. I don't want to.
Well, the CDC is not recommending the vaccination anymore for little kids.
Anyone healthy.
And so what they were accusing RFK Jr. yesterday in Congress about is, well, you changed the board of the CDC and you've got all these crackpot conspiracy theorists. I'm sorry, I read RFK Jr.'s book, The Real Dr. Fauci. I mean, that guy, boy. I've never seen a book that was more attested to by his footnotes. I mean,
he's a lawyer.
Chapter he wrote, it was like chock full of studies coming from medical journals. So this whole crackpot conspiracy idea,
I got to cap that off with, as has been pointed out numerous times, he's never been charged with defamation of character.
No, it's funny. He
dots his I's, crosses his T's.
Yeah, during his confirmation hearing, it was really interesting because they kept coming and up to him and saying, "So you're a conspiracy theorist?" And they were trying to really do that. He goes,
all those conspiracies came true, though.
And he listed off a ton of them.
I remember.
That was awesome. And see, this is the problem: is that they rail back because they want to. All they can do is lie. And if our rights come from these liars, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, for sure. But one final piece to that mystery, Lisa wants to know, why is he so tan? Why is RFK Jr. so tan?
Well, I don't know.
I said I think it's a vanity thing, but I don't know either.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
I've never seen any Kennedy as dark as that one is.
Yeah, I know. All right, so do you want to go on to talk about Chicago and the National Guard, the Venezuelan boat?
Which one do you want to pick up? This one. I know you want to talk about that Venezuelan boat.
I do want to talk to both, but on both, but we have limited time. But I have the boat up video, so let's go with that. And yeah, well, you know what, dude? I didn't have a ton of thoughts about it until I was listening to Glenn Greenwald, and I have to say he was reflecting some thoughts I heard the night before in a podcast, but I don't remember who that was. Anyways, here's the video. I didn't bother with sound. We just there it is.
Holy cow! I hadn't seen that before.
Is that right? So it is a boat. I would say roughly 35. No, it's not even 35 feet long now that I saw more of a close-up.
That wasn't what I thought it was going to be, that boat. I thought it was going to be more of a...
Bigger.
That looked like a big rowboat.
Exactly. Right there. There it is. And yeah, it is relatively small. Like some rough seas would capsize that thing for sure. But it does have 4 big motors on the back. So it is it's rather fast. But there's 11 people on board. It was said to be, we now have yet another new term, a narco-terrorist boat. And it is with these things where I start going, oh my God. There's 2 things that I hate here. There's going to be a lot of pro-Trump, anti-Trump people getting into their smokescreen arguments about terrorism, drug wars, and all this. And then there's the overlying arching thing. And to me, that is, you were just talking about I always want to say inalienable rights, but you said unalienable rights, correct?
Inalienable, unalienable, or you can say it both ways.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just kind of used to saying it. So apparently they don't have inalienable rights. And what I mean by that is, why did they not intercept this boat and get evidence before any kind of, and there's no evidence now. There's just hearsay. And we have a new term called narco-terrorism that we have to throw around. Now, on top of that, I've heard for a few times now that, and it started with somebody overheard a tape that wasn't supposed to be leaked about Venezuela is going to be our next war because we want the oil. It's in turmoil and we want the oil. So that's coming, and this is a big step in going towards that. That's what I have heard and known. What about you?
Well, everything you just said was really interesting, and I don't disagree with anything that you said. I would say, though, one thing I would take issue with is do people that are attacking the United States have the right to, let's look at the evidence and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if that, like an enemy combatant, which there is a war on drugs, literally, that we have there's been a war declared on drugs. And so that's going to be a gray area there. But what I did want to bring up is the opium wars that happened in the 1800s. There were two wars that happened in China called the Opium Wars. And what was happening was that the Western nations, particularly the UK, but the United States was also involved. There were characters from the United States involved. I wouldn't say the country, but people were taking opium and selling it into China. And the Chinese government tried to stop that from happening. And this is called the Opium Wars. It's part 1 and part 2. And the reason they were trying to stop it from happening is because these opium dens opened up all over China and nobody was working anymore. And the moral fabric of China, which had a dynasty of 1,000 years. By the way, China had the highest GDP in the world for almost 1,000 years reigning.
Is that right?
Point. Yes, I did
Holy
not know that
crap.
until recently.
I didn't
And it
know
was the opium thing that caused one of the big things that caused their major downfall. And it was the Western powers that inflicted that on them. And it actually was the Qing dynasty, QING, that was ruling at that time. They'd been ruling for a couple hundred years. They collapsed. And then the China was vulnerable from that point forward. That's how they became a communist nation. And so this is exactly what we are looking at today with fentanyl coming in from the southern border, and the materials that are used to make fentanyl are all coming from China into Sinaloa, Mexico, and then up through the drug cartels into the United States. And we're losing over 100,000 youth every year. These are military age people that could be fighting. This is a war that's going on where we're losing more than we lost during the Civil War every year, and no one's saying anything about it. So this is a major threat to our country. It is a war, and I would say it's narco-terrorism, and I think we should take it seriously. There's been some tremendous drug busts over the last 2 weeks, stuff we've never seen before, and it's because there's a concentrated attack against the United States that we do have to defend against, and it's our youth that they're attacking.
All right, so you mentioned, of course, China, Mexico, the fentanyl thing. Totally get that. It has nothing to do with Venezuela. Why did
But they're
this?
part of the same organization. It's the gangs that are being incented by China. China has a big foothold in Venezuela as well. That Maduro guy, he's completely financed by the CCP. It's the same organization that's attacking us, Barry.
Why did this drug boat, as it was called, have 11 people? Not a very big one. Why didn't it have more drugs and less people? Why did it have 11 people on it?
This is the suspicious thing about this whole thing. It's like,
There's a lot suspicious here.
What-
And
what
especially
was
as
that?
we craft this war of Venezuela. So grand picture versus the other side of this is staying down there in the smoke screen of narco-terrorism and all that crap. The grand picture on this, what I wonder, what the hell is going on in this country? What is our plan to deal with an economy that can't be dealt with, that more and more people are sliding into poverty? We are dependent on war. We have to give. I think it was Thomas Massey says that the military industrial complex demands to be fed, I think, $50 billion a year. And so here's another war. Of course, they have oil. That's the main thing. But so is all of this, like, from Trump's point of view? I believe Trump went into office with his team with an entirely different thought on their agenda. I think their agenda was transparent and true, and I was 100% on board with it. Then they get in there, and it's brick wall after brick wall, and I think he has been briefed and realized, first of all, with the economy, you ain't rescuing this economy. It has one choice: to turn into China's economy. You and I talked about that before, and I could not remember where. It was something like an author of a book, a big, long podcast. It was something really reputable that explained to us the economy and how really there is no choice from here but to turn into China's economy. Does that ring a bell with you? Maybe
Yeah,
1 or 2 years ago?
Well, we've watched several of these. I don't know which one specific you're talking about, but there is an attack on our economy, and that is what's
Our
happening
economy's
right now.
done, man. It's
I don't know if it's
a
done.
sinking ship. There's no
It
turning
is
back the clock on this
It could. I don't necessarily agree that there's no turning back the clock on this, because I there are some things I've been studying that do give me hope. I think that as I understand how the commercial banks operate and their ability to create digital funds, that's really what they do.
Yeah.
If they were to start to loan more to small businesses opening up rather than all of this asset purchase that's going on, that's what the majority of loans are for right now. If it were to open up small business, we would see a change in this country. And that is because small business is the heart of our economy. And the more we loan into that sector of the economy, that actually doesn't cause inflation. It reduces inflation, and less investment in assets, because more loans to assets actually drives up inflation. So even though we live in this debt-based economy, there are certain levers that bankers can pull as a whole in order to pull us out of the mess that we're in, which is high inflation. Um, but so what I'm saying is, I don't think we're done, at least not yet. But I do see that there's a long uphill fight ahead of us.
Okay, totally agree. And we're going to have to start wrapping up. But I did want to say that there's so many important things to be said about the hedge funds and the big three that own so much. I did a little bit of research. You said they own 80% of the companies in the country, and the research.
World.
The research said, yeah, that's not really true. It's because they own equity in all investment.
In all of them.
It's a good way to say it simply, but if somebody challenges you on it, it's not.
Well, here's what you have to look at is that they own the majority of the stock in most of these companies.
That's really more to the
That's really
point.
what it is. And so
they have
the controlling,
a lot of influence.
they have a controlling interest.
Yes,
it's
that's
not just
the point.
influence; they have controlling influence. So it's as if they own these companies, because
Yes.
they can't. The companies can't fight against it, and so that's really the leverage that they have over these companies. Are still publicly held companies, right? You can still buy stock in these companies, and therefore, technically, you're an owner of that company as well. It's just
You
that
get
they own a
crumbs.
whole
They
lot
get the
more
pie,
of that
you get the
company.
crumbs.
Yeah.
That's how that
So
works.
therefore, what's happening is they can dictate the policies of these companies, and as we saw during COVID, that they were able to dictate and mandate vaccinations where the government didn't have that power, but these companies did. And therefore, what I'm trying to say is that that's not capitalism. That's fascism. And the problem is that everybody's looking at our fascist economic platform and saying capitalism is so greedy and bad. You're not looking at capitalism anymore. That's not what this is. This is
That's true.
fascism. And that's why it looks the way that it does. And that's why it looks so evil as well and greedy.
Oh
Capitalism
God,
in its
agreed.
truest form is compassionate capitalism. The only way you can have that is by having the government keeping their dirty fingers out of it.
Well, what really needs to be done as we wind up here, and just kind of wetting the whistle on this with these hedge fund companies, they we could talk about our antitrust, so anti-monopoly laws all day. So why does this is this allowed to exist?
Right.
Because of the nature of these investment firms, they don't really own all this. It doesn't look like a traditional monopoly.
Gray area.
However, they break the spirit of that law. It is a violation, and that's enough. That should be enough. But they got the best lawyers in the entire country. That's
Well,
the problem. But they need broken up. They need
this.
broken up.
They do. And if you look at, like, for instance, the Soviet Union, okay, would we want to be the Soviet Union? Heck no, we wouldn't want that. We know how bad that would be. But what is a Soviet? I learned this recently. So a Soviet is a controlling block or organization that dictates how all of the businesses are going to work within an economy. That's what a Soviet does. That's what the hedge funds are doing. They're doing so we
Interesting.
basically live in a Soviet here in the United States.
Well,
And
that's
why all
interesting
these
about
things are
that.
going down. It's not true competition. If you own the store on all four corners of the street, you can price fix.
Well, they
That's
can
why
also
we have this.
they can make Disney put out woke bomb after woke bomb, and you sit there and go, how can they continue losing hundreds of millions of dollars and keep doing the same thing? It's because they're mandated by the main owners, and China has a lot of influence in this.
Well, and remember when all of those immigrants were coming up through Mexico, did you notice how many of the kids were wearing Disney apparel? I mean, it was like they were all wearing Disney apparel, all of them.
That's horrible. All right, with
So
that,
who's sponsoring this is what I gotta say.
right. It's like a
Brought
photo
to you
op.
by ABC.
Do you have anything for the lighter side? Any parting words?
I don't actually.
Okay,
Except
I
for
don't
this has
either.
been a great conversation.
Oh, it's
I
been
really
a lot.
enjoyed this.
I could do it all day. You know what? We could pick back up on any of these conversations all over again. We got a lot more to go. With that, buddy, I hope you have a good weekend, and I hope all you do as well. Please like, share, and go to over50startingover.com and sign up. Get all this to your email box as it happens. Mark's tip is coming up now.
Well, hello there, over 50 starting over friends. Mark Tennant back with you with your AI tip of the week. This week, first of our series, which AI platform works best for you? This week, we're featuring ChatGPT. So most everybody knows, or at least have heard of ChatGPT. And by now, you know that ChatGPT can do many things. It can automate routine tasks. It can teach you practically anything. It enhances communication. It helps you draft emails, so on and so on. But you know, most people don't know the full capabilities of ChatGPT. So what we're going to do this week, we're going to find out. So we are in my ChatGPT desktop version of chatgpt.com, and all of my chats and different capabilities here on the side. First of all, let's look at the model. ChatGPT 5. 5 is the new version. The latest and greatest came out at the first part of August 2025. And within version 5 of ChatGPT, you can actually choose how the model works, how it thinks. You can have it automatically decide how long to think. You can get instant answers right away, thinks a lot quicker. And then for longer, better answers, you can select this and it'll think a little bit longer for you. Also, the legacy model, ChatGPT 4.0, that was starting to get phased out and sunsetted. You can still use that. A lot of people prefer to do that. But that's the capabilities of the current chat model now. And within ChatGPT, you can add photos and files to any chat. You probably know that. Agent mode, this is something we can do a whole new show on, and we probably will do a tip on agents. It's pretty cool, automatically does tasks for you. Deep research, one of the best tools within ChatGPT. Something that would take months to do, you can do in minutes with deep research within ChatGPT. You can create an image using DALL-E, the image creator. We're going to look at Sora here in just a second. There's a study and learn capability to where it asks you questions. It challenges you as a student. Anything you want to learn, it's a great feature. It's fairly new. You can search the web with the chat, and then you could use Canvas, which essentially is a window that opens up on the side and tells you how ChatGPT thinks as you're talking to it. Now, if you're going off to the side, we can start a new chat here. We can search previous chats. Under the library, this is different things you've created and different things you've uploaded within ChatGPT, just a kind of repository for those, so you don't have to go find them again if you wanted to re-reference those in some kind of a chat. The Codex version, you can actually write code within ChatGPT. If you have a software as a service product in your mind that you want to create, you can probably do it with this. You got to have a little bit of coding knowledge, which I'm very short on, but it's a wonderful feature and people use it quite a bit and have made a lot of money off of it. I will say that. Also, Sora. Let's look at Sora. It takes a second to load, but within Sora, you can create your own images and your own videos. Now, the difference between the DALL-E version and Sora, it's just so much crisper. It doesn't look computer-like the other images that it previously created, the DALL-E versions. But you can create images, you can create videos with all with the one chat. Right here, you can add a storyboard to any of your videos. You can search images, you can create videos, the top ones that people have made of all time, the top ones of the day, top ones of the week, different things people have made, all within Sora and just describing whatever it is they wanted to create, and it creates it. And going back, finally, we're going to talk about GPTs. And GPTs, probably one of the most underused features of ChatGPT. This is where you can create your own mini ChatGPT on any topic you want. Some of the featured GPTs are a supercharged writing assistant here. You can just open that up and start chatting with it. It can write things for you. Scholar GPT, it enhances research with 200 million resources built in. And they have topics for writing, productivity, research and analysis, a GPT for everything practically. And you can create your own GPTs. We're going to do a tip of the week on that because as I said, this is one of the most underused features here within ChatGPT. You have a library of the GPTs you created. And you see if I've created a couple. And then, of course, you can go back to the desktop. That is a quick overview of ChatGPT. It's the latest version, and that's of September 2025. It can do so much. It's the best $20 a month you will ever spend on a paid platform. So there you have it. ChatGPT boosts productivity. You get smarter when you use it, and it's a wonderful tool, user-friendly, nice interface. It's customizable workspaces with projects, big help. And then embracing ChatGPT, it keeps you competitive, it keeps you creative, and it keeps you learning. So ChatGPT, really versatile. Again, the paid version is what I prefer. And it's the best $20 a month you'll spend. And start using the other functionality, some of the stuff we showed you here when we just demoed ChatGPT for you. Use Sora, use the imaging, create videos, use the project feature, use GPTs, create your own GPTs. As a matter of fact, with the deep research, go out and Google how to use deep research in ChatGPT. It's really fascinating. And I want to know what you create. Email me, mark@marktennant.net. I would love to hear from you. And let's connect on the socials on LinkedIn. I am at Mark E. Tennant. Next week, next tip, we're going to be doing Claude, and we hope you're with us. And until then, take care.